Happy game day, everybody. Welcome into GameQuest, the Volquest.com game day podcast. I am Eric Cain alongside Grant Ramey, as always, to get you set and ready to roll for Tennessee, number 8 team in the country, against Florida. And big game all around, Grant. Of course, we know about last weekend. We know Tennessee kind of fumbled a little, not literally, figuratively, fumbled the ball on the road there against Arkansas. Disappointing. It's been a rough week, but no better way to kind of cure those blues than coming back home, beating a rival, and getting back to who you are, and that's running the football and opening up the pass off that. I think Tennessee is going to respond the right way, but I think it's good to be back home, to say the least.
It's good to be back home, and it's good to play a big home game. It's October or whatever the date is. I don't know. And Tennessee hasn't played a big home game until 7 o'clock Saturday night against Florida. They've played Kent State. They've played Chattanooga. They had to go to Charlotte for North Carolina State. They had to go on the road for their first 2 SEC games. And, that trip to Fayetteville was rough. Didn't play well. This is still a good football team. I don't think it's time to panic. I think it's time to come home and, wipe the slate clean and play really well against a team you can beat and you should beat. And you were a 3-touchdown favorite against last week, and I think it's 2 touchdowns right now. Play that way. Use the home crowd to your advantage, since he hasn't had a huge home game yet, a hostile environment. Now it's Checker Neyland. It's Florida. Everybody knows what comes with that. Take advantage of it and kind of get some confidence back, because this is still a good football team. They didn't look good at Arkansas. It's a good football team. It still has a ton to play for. They need to show that Saturday night against Florida.
Yeah, we're going to get you set for that right here on GameQuest over the next couple minutes. VFL Jabari Davis going to join us here in about 15. I try to get him on each and every week, or each and every year when they play Florida. So going to hear from Juice here in a little bit, but couldn't do this without our friends over Premier Garage of Knoxville. Garage guys or gals who bleed orange. Premier Garage in Knoxville can be for you. East Tennessee's number 1 provider of custom garage flooring, cabinetry, and storage solutions. You can be the best Tennessee fan that you can be this football season by ordering the Smokey Grey hybrid polymer floor today at premiergarageknoxville.com/Vols. That is premiergarageknoxville.com/Vols. Okay, so there's always questions, Grant, as they lost the locker room. Did they not prepare over the bye week? Is Nico a bust? What's wrong with this offense? Try to channel all that in. What does Tennessee need to do in this football game to get the offense back to where it needs to be? I mean, they're not going to run for over 400 like they did against Kent State or whatever, but get them back to playing with an offensive identity, but that we haven't seen the last 2 weeks, to be completely frank. What needs to happen in this football game?
Run the football, run the football, run the football. I mean, that's huge to start with, because you're capable of running the football, and Florida has shown that it's going to struggle to stop the run. Florida's coming off its best defensive game of the season against UCF Saturday night in the Swamp, but this is, going to Knoxville to face Tennessee's offense. That should be a different story. You've shown you can run the football, establish the run, and go from there. Get back to the tempo, get back to going fast, get back to trying to confuse defenses. But first and foremost, lean on your run game. Dylan Sampson, Deshaun Bishop, Cam Seldon, whoever it is, however the snaps and the handoffs are whoever gets the most, I don't know, ride the hot hand, whatever it is. If it's all Deshaun Bishop, it's all Deshaun Bishop. If it's all Dylan Sampson, it doesn't matter. One way or the other, run the football. Get your quarterback involved in the run too, and establish the run and go from there. Dominate the game, dominate the line of scrimmage, starting with the run, and see if the points don't fall, see if the pass game doesn't open up, see if you can't establish a little bit more consistency and confidence there based off of that run, and just start it on the ground and go from there.
Had to mute my mic here because I had some sirens going on out the window. I mean, I moved out to the country. That was not supposed to follow me here, Grant.
They heard. They found you. They found you. You're good.
They found me. You're just a couple years older than me, so we're pretty much in the same demo here. But like growing up, man, like me, all my friends, and I understand that it wasn't this way until 1992 when they did East-West, and of course that's gone now in the SEC. But the rivalry game every year was Tennessee and Florida for me, and I get it. Florida's owned that rivalry. Like, I understand it, but like, my dad would say, Tennessee, Alabama. My grandpa would say Tennessee, Vanderbilt. A lot of people say Tennessee, Kentucky, the Border Bowl and all that. Like, I get all that. Georgia's a huge game. I'm not diminishing those whatsoever, but like for me and my demo and like people that I grew up with, I mean, Tennessee, Florida was it, like every single year. Having said that, Grant, I mean, it's been so heavily dominated one side, right? I mean, 2022, Tennessee did everything it could to give that game away. Tennessee was leading by, what was it, Grant? I want to say
38-21, pretty late in the, well, not late, but early in the fourth quarter.
no. It was, I want to say 5 minutes left in the game. I mean,
I know they scored twice in the final 5 minutes, including one with 17 seconds left.
It was just wild. I mean, the point is Tennessee tried to give that away. It was a thrilling end. Tennessee wins. Prior to that, Tennessee won in 2016, of course. Last 2 times Tennessee's won in this series has been here at Neyland Stadium. Tennessee's been the better team several times throughout this series and just find ways to lose. I don't think Tennessee's going to lose this game, but I recognize it is never easy with Florida. That's why later when we pick it, spoilers, picking Tennessee to win, Florida to cover, because Tennessee's going to do whatever it can to allow Florida to win this game. What is it about this game, man? What is it about this matchup and this series that just drives? I think Nick Delatorre said it best earlier this week on the Volquest podcast. Nobody knows how to take defeat out of the jaws of victory more so than Tennessee in this series. Why is that?
I don't know why that is, and it's almost like a mental hurdle that Tennessee has not been able to clear more often than not. And a lot of those times it's in Gainesville. That's a tough place to play. It's a hostile environment. It's early in the season usually with this game, when this game is played. A lot of those games and a lot of the reason this rivalry has been one-sided for the last X number of years is because Florida's been in a better place. They've been in a better program. They've hired better coaches. Tennessee has struggled to hire the right guy, and they've just not been in the same kind of conversation as where Florida is talent-wise and for whatever reasons. And now you look at it right now, and Billy Napier's kind of fighting for his life and his job, trying to keep it. Tennessee's got to win this football game in a way that Tennessee hasn't won against Florida in X number of years. They need to win by multiple touchdowns. They need to win going away. They need to win in a way that gets some confidence back and gets the confidence of the fan base back and the energy back. Because, last week they're talking about, is this team a national championship contender? And you go to Arkansas and you play poorly. And this week the discussion is this offense figured out? Is Nico not the guy? Is, whatever the conversation may be. You need to kind of leave no doubt in this game. You need to win and win like a 2-touchdown favorite should win. Like I said earlier, it was 3 touchdowns last week. That's what Vegas thought of this game, where Tennessee is, where Florida is. Obviously, that's changed a little bit over what we've seen the last few days, but you got to win this football game convincingly, and that's easier said than done because we just haven't seen Tennessee do that against Florida, but find a way to do it.
It is so hard to win on the road in college football. And we say that all the time, and I feel like people just kind of roll your eyes. And sometimes even when I say it, I'm rolling my eyes at myself. But, I mean, look around college football, man. Missouri was getting that butt whipped 34-0 in the third quarter last week. We know about, I'm not going to credit Vanderbilt's home field advantage, but we saw Alabama lose on the road this past weekend. We saw Ole Miss lose on the road last weekend. I just think, and we just flashed some images up there a moment ago if you're watching on YouTube, just getting back home, man. I mean, just playing in front of your crowd. The crowd's going to help you out when you need it on defense. They're going to shut up when you need it on offense. I just think that's going to make a huge difference for a team that's been rattled a little bit offensively on the road and trying to get back to finding its own identity. So I think more than anything, just getting back home. And, Matt and I talked about it earlier this week on Trail Tidbits. I mean, it's huge from a recruiting perspective, no doubt. Because, I mean, you're having all these commits going to Georgia and Alabama. Why? Well, because Tennessee hadn't been home in a month, and Tennessee's going to be home for the next month. So I just think it's going to be big. Maybe we put too much stock into it. I personally don't think we do, but playing at home, I think, is a big deal. And I think it's coming at a perfect time for this football team that misses Neyland.
I mean, it's a big deal because you look back at Arkansas and you see a lot of those false starts where those are drive killers. That 5 yards is tough to overcome sometimes when you're struggling to get something going. And that's what you want to have to your advantage for this 4-game homestand. They haven't been home in a month, it feels like. Well, here you got 4 straight games over the next 5 weeks, and you need to figure out a way to win football games. And you need to lean on that crowd to create those kind of penalties. You need to play cleaner yourself. You can't have an offensive lineman downfield on a big gainer on first down, that kind of stuff. You have to clean up yourself. But at the same time, this pass rush has got to get after Graham Mertz and DJ Lagway. This pass rush has to change the line of scrimmage. They got to be able to create pressure with 4. They have to be able to mix it up and be aggressive, but lean on this home crowd. Don't start slow and let this home crowd have the air taken out of it. Start fast, apply the pressure, and lean on the home crowd that you haven't been able to do really all season because you haven't played any big home games. You didn't need a home crowd against NC State. You didn't need a home crowd against Chattanooga. Now you need a home crowd and an environment, a hostile environment to beat a football team that you should beat convincingly. We'll just see if it happens.
And please, I mean, if things won't go perfect. Okay, there's going to be negative plays. You'll have to punt a time or two. But if you're having trouble offensively and trying to find something going, I've ranted about this enough this week. But I mean, help yourself out. Like, do some things to help out the protection. Do some things to help out the young quarterback. Send a guy in motion. Cut the splits down. Run some the underneath routes. The intermediate in this football game or this football team is like non-existent, and Arkansas was giving it to them, and they just didn't take advantage. I want to see some in-game adjustments more than anything, because I'm sure there were some made, and I'm no coach, so I'm not trying to say there wasn't any, but boy, it was tough to find some in-game adjustments offensively at Arkansas, and I just, you can be who you are, but you can't be stuck. You said it on one of the podcasts this week. You can't be so stubborn and not loose enough to try to go and change some things around to jumpstart yourself in this football game. So hopefully we'll see that today here on offense.
And the sky's not falling. This offense isn't broken. It's not figured out. The offensive line's not the worst thing on the planet. The pass protection is not the worst thing on the planet. Like, they can rebound. They can get better. They did not look good at Arkansas. The tackles didn't look good. The interior offensive line at times didn't look good. Running backs missed in pass protection. Tight ends weren't great chipping and protecting when they were asked to. You can get better, and you can get back to doing what you did early on in the season that made you look like a top 5 football team in the country. I think they can get back to that, but yes, it's going to require better scheme. It's going to require better play calling. It's going to require better, like you're talking about, in-game adjustments. They're going to have to run the ball better. They're going to have to, connect a little bit more on the easier throws and not just home run balls, or not just those, that 66-yard touchdown to Dante like they had at Oklahoma. Finds a little bit more of the in-between to connect everything a little bit, to establish a little bit more consistency. But it's not the end of the world. The sky's not falling. You got plenty of time to panic the rest of the season if things go south, if this doesn't work out well, and just go from there.
We got Jabari Davis, VFL, and the Gator Killer coming up here next on GameQuest. But first, I do want to tell you about our friends that is over at Premier Garage Knoxville. Garage guys or gals who bleed orange. Do you use your garage as some sort of man cave, watching football throughout the fall, or maybe even trying to get a quick escape from the family? If you're like me, I like to start every football Saturday in my garage watching College Game Day, even the start of that 12:45 game on the SEC Network. It is your place. It is a place to kick back, put down a couple cold ones, potentially escape from it all, right? So here's a question for you. What better compliments to this garage, this sanctuary of sorts, if you will, than Premier Garage of Knoxville's custom Smokey Grey hybrid polymer floor? I'm gonna pull up here. If you're watching on YouTube right now, I'm gonna pull up the website, and you can go to website right here. It is premiergarageknoxville.com/falls. premiergarageknoxville.com/falls. You can sign up for a free in-home consultation right here. Really, really easy to do. And you see this video right here. Look at this floor. Look at the Smokey Grey polymer floor. Just gorgeous. And that can be in your garage, and you can be the talk of the neighborhood. You can be the top of the friend group, with all that and more at Premier Garage Knoxville. So really a one-of-a-kind polymer floor. You can go check it out. It's hybrid. They're East Tennessee's leading provider of custom garage flooring, cabinetry, and storage solutions. They only use company employees, so that's opposed to subcontractors, to ensure that you receive consistent craftsmanship and personalized attention. 15 plus years in the business, locally owned and operated, and thousands of satisfied customers. Again, that website I just showed you, you can schedule a free in-home consultation by visiting premiergarageknoxville.com/falls. The Vols sported those Smokey Greys in week 1 and looked pretty darn good doing it, so why not flake your garage floor with the same Tennessee Smokey Grey hybrid polymer floor? Check it all out today at premiergarageknoxville.com/falls. That is premiergarageknoxville.com/falls. And I also want to tell you about our friends, proud sponsor of GameQuest. That's over at Prize Picks. What is Prize Picks? Well, it's a grid here, okay? You pick 2 to 6, and you're going to pick more than or less than. So, for instance, you go to prizepicks.com. You can download that app. Take Nico, for example. They'll give a passing yards, total right there. Say it's 222. Grant's going to pick less than because he doesn't like to have fun. I'm going to pick more than, right? I mean, that's kind of how you do that. You can do it for Nico, Dylan Sampson, Brew McCoy, whoever the case may be. But also, it's for all college football. It can be for NFL. It can be different sports as well. You have a player grid, at least 2, up to 6, and you pick more than or less than. It's really, really simple, and you can win 100 times your money this football season by doing that. And one of the best parts about it is, right now over at PrizePicks.com. You've got, oh, here it is. Play $5, and you're going to get $50 instantly if you put in that promo code VQ. Play $5, okay? You're going to get $50 instantly by putting in the promo code VQ. That is promo code VQ. By playing $5, you're going to get $50, all that and more over at PrizePicks. So go to PrizePicks.com/VQ/VQ. Receive $50 once you play $5 in lineups. It's really, really fun. It's how you can put some coin in your pocket this football season. Again, not just football, it's for all sports as well. But remember this, play $5, get $50, putting in that promo code VQ over at PrizePicks.com. Hey, I want to welcome back to the show Jabari Davis. I have him on each and every year whenever Tennessee plays Florida because why not? Who else other than the Gator Killer? Jabari, appreciate the time, man. Exciting game coming up, obviously. Big game for Tennessee. But before we jump into kind of the keys for Tennessee and all that, I'd like to kind of give the platform to you, man, and kind of dial it back. Go back to when you played Florida all those years. Why were you able to be so successful against the Gators year in and year out?
Oh, man, I just thrived in that moment. I knew that game was always a big game for us to be a contender in the SEC and to get to our common goal, which was always try to get to Atlanta first. Then we could control our own destiny once we got to the SEC championship, man. Other than that, man, I just always felt like, it was time to shine, which as a former, as a football player, you want to maximize every opportunity that you get. But I guess, that Florida game just meant something special and something different, being part of the game as a freshman and watching a lot of success from the previous running backs that we had, especially Travis Stevens, and being a part of that 2001 special game. That was probably the biggest game over the past 30 years, and then not 30 years, but 25 years of Tennessee football, right next to the national championship year. That game had everything on the line for us to be another national contender, man. And just, under great leadership, great teammates, and just always wanted to do the best that I could do, man, to beat those Gators.
Yeah, you mentioned, obviously, you had a great career at Tennessee. You played around and behind and in front of some great running backs and Travis Stevens and Henry and so on and so forth, Houston and Riggs and so on and so forth. Dylan Sampson's a really good running back right now for Tennessee, man. And he's been good when given opportunities the last couple of years, but he is a true RB1, getting about 20, 25 touches a game. Tennessee, the offense has taken a step back the last 2 weeks, but he has been grinding out and still getting his on the ground. And what have you seen from his game, man? I mean, he's just, it feels like to me he's an all-around complete running back. He's tough between the tackles. He's got the speed. What have you seen from Dylan Sampson? And I think he's Tennessee's best player right now.
Well, like I said previously, when last time we talked about this, and anytime I mention Sampson, I just automatically say Kamara 2.0.
Yeah.
He's the generation of running backs of what you need to be successful in, in that pro style offense. And just in football today, being a guy that can play all three downs, that can play slot, that can return the ball if needed, great hands, unbelievable speed, unbelievable pad level for a guy his size with quick feet, vision, just always making things happen. And, he bulked up over the offseason, and now he's running with more power. We all saw that run he had in the goal line when he ran over that safety or that linebacker. But he's the heartbeat of our team right now. He's our most vocal leader, and we just got to ride his wave. I know he was very upset after what happened as being a team captain. You put the team on your back, and, we just got to keep fighting and just keep riding his wave, his leadership. And, I definitely think he's got a lot of big games coming up for us, and he's going to be very, very needed, in the month of October. And actually, I'm going to go to practice tomorrow, and I'm going to talk to Dylan and talk to some of the running backs. I'm just, from a former guy that had success in Florida, what to think about it, some mental notes, and just try to preach some positivity in their ear going into this week, because I know, a lot of guys are still kind of down a little bit. Hopefully we flushed it and we're locked in on this weekend. But I'm gonna go holler at him tomorrow, man, and try to get him fired up so he can lead us to victory.
Yeah, it'll be nice to have the legend of the game to come on and talk to him at practice. We'll talk about that here in a moment. But kind of on that note, Dylan's been great, and I've been impressed with Deshaun, and Cam Selden, just some unlucky, getting injury and missing some time, and I'm excited to see when he gets back in there, obviously. But the offensive line, the tackles, the tight ends, and the running backs, they all struggled in pass pro the other night at Arkansas. I mean, no ifs, ands, buts about it. As a running back, I know it's difficult, but kind of how do you approach your pass pro? I mean, you got a defensive tackle sometimes coming by, and you got to go step up in that B gap and block him. You got a blitzing linebacker coming. You got a safety coming off the edge. As a running back, how do you go approach your pass pro? What are some of the skills and characteristics needed to go and make that block?
Well, from what I saw, man, this past weekend, we had to become another offensive lineman. And, that's what our coach with the running backs, in my youth football and running backs that I helped develop in the offseason, man, your pass pro game has got to be efficient, especially if you want to play in the SEC and play professional football one day. But whenever your offensive line is struggling, especially at the tackle position, which we all know we got killed this past weekend at the tackle position. So you got to become an extra offensive lineman. So you got to really mirror that tackle, sometimes mirror the guard. You really can't go into your route so much. You got to make sure that you're just in safety mode, just in case you're having trouble blocking a guy. And you just want to just close space on him, man. Be physical with him, try to get a good double team, try to get a good chip on a guy, just to slow his momentum enough and his feet enough so Nico could climb the pocket and make a good throw and a good balanced throw. And what we saw this past weekend was like Nico was, instead of stepping in the pocket, he was stepping out of the pocket. Mm-hmm. And when your quarterback has to step out of the pocket, now it's going to force him to make a throw running downfield, which is a harder throw on the run, even though Nico was athletic and he's athletic enough to make those throws. But a lot of those throws is like, either you're accurate or you're not. And just imagine somebody chasing you downfield and you're trying to make a precise throw. It is very difficult. That's the reason, we have guys like Nico, and Coach Heupel is very, crucial when it comes to quarterback development, because, we got to be able to make those off balance, those running throws. And I think that's what happened to us this weekend. Nico was climbing out of the pocket too much, and the running backs, instead of being a check down guy, we had to stay inside and help our linemen become an extra blocker.
It's always been this way, and so it's nothing different. But you get a loss, especially one that you're supposed to win that football game. You come up short. Sky's falling. Season's over. How important is it to, especially in this era with the 12-team playoff, know like, hey, you're afforded one of those or so. If everything is still in front of you, and I still think Nico's pretty good. I still think Lance Hurd's going to be a pretty good left tackle. How important is it to know, like, hey, season's not over. You gotta. Let me ask it this way: as a player, how difficult is it to truly snap and clear? I think it's easier for a player than the fan base. But what's that process like, flushing it and truly moving on?
Well, man, it's always tough because you got the whole state depending on you. You got your coaches, you got your friends, you got Vol Nation, and it's tough. Naturally, you're going to have a lot of emotions after the game, and those emotions will carry with you on your heart and your mind, your soul, your spirit, all the way until about Sunday night. But, you just got to flush it down, detox, put down your phone, get off social media. Don't watch the news. Don't watch any television. Maybe just go get something to eat, spend some time away from the game right then and there. And just wake up Monday morning with a new attitude and just say, hey, what can I focus on now that's going to help us win this past week. I mean, win for the upcoming weekend. So it's something that you really have to be trained to do sometimes, man. But just being around the right people and being around a good group of teammates, because we know, fans can be negative, and the Tennessee fans have high expectations at the quarterback position and for this season because we have all the tools to compete for a national championship if you look at us on paper. But like you said, that Arkansas game, I knew we were going to win. I was expecting us to win about, 20 to 30 points. But I always knew in the back of my mind that that game is going to be tough, man. We got former players over there that are looking at us like, hey, it's time for them to get some get back. We got a former coach over there that's highly respected in the SEC and in the football coaching world. And you got an offensive coordinator over there that's one of the best offensive minds in the game of football over the last 30, 40 years. So games like that, they're going to bring their A game. So we can't afford to make a lot of mistakes. You can't have turnovers. You can't have crucial mistakes with your offensive line. So, but I think that we're mentally focused now, man. We're talking to a lot of the guys, texting them over the last 2 days, just some positive, encouraging words. And the best way to get that feeling back and to get that confidence rolling into Alabama is to go this weekend and put up 40, 50 points against Florida. Just make Florida just make them tap out. Just make them tap out, play your A game. Let's win in all phases of the game, and let's, be really victorious and be the type of football team that we can be.
Well, Jabari, I know you're a busy guy. You got a lot of things going on. Legends of Tennessee. You're coaching some as well. You're helping with some nonprofits. Friday night, you're going to speak at the Beat Florida VFL social event. On Saturday, you're going to speak at a UT alumni event, and then it's only fitting, man, that Tennessee and Florida, you're going to be honored as the VFL Legend of the Game, man. What's that mean for you? And, you can talk about all this stuff this weekend, but to be the Legend of the Game, I mean, what's that mean for you?
It's a humbling feeling, man, to be honored and recognized from your university that you put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears in, and finally get that, that recognition of that moment to solidify, your hard work that you put in. At the University of Tennessee, there's been a lot of great running backs. There's been a lot of great players, and I consider myself just one of the little guys, man. I didn't really have a strong NFL career. Didn't really have a lot of success that I wanted to at UT, but when it came to a lot of the big games in the early 2000s, I think when number 34 was put in the game, he made some plays and he made some things happen and helped us win a lot of good games on the road and games inside Neyland Stadium. So very supportive of the Letterman Club. Like I said, man, we have thousands and thousands of Lettermen, and just for me to be picked out of all of that, it's just truly humbling, and I'm very thankful, and I'm very supportive of my university.
Well, as I was telling you before, we were recording. I told you this before. I mean, again, when I was growing up, big 34 goes into the goal line, jumps over the line, touchdown Tennessee. I mean, it's something you mimic as a kid, right? And
Yeah.
I remember you doing that, and so that was awesome. And I'm happy that you're getting honored here today.
Making me feel like I'm 70 years old, man.
Well, I told you, man, I feel old as crap too, right? It's what happens. It's what happens.
Yeah, you don't realize that, I just turned 41 this year, but you don't realize that until you meet people like yourself. You get on social media, man. I get a lot of messages from kids say, hey, man, I remember running people over and wearing number 34 because of you. And
yeah,
I call myself the A train or the whatever train, and I used to jump over people and do all this other stuff because I saw you do it. And he's like, wow, man, you don't realize when you're 18, 19, 20, the impact that you have on kids in this state and kids, that look up to you all over. So I'm always reminding the current guys when they're working our camps, when we work in different nonprofit events, community events, man, that these kids watch everything that you do. Mm-hmm. So I always try to protect your name, keep your name clean, do the right thing, engage with these kids, spend time with them, let them get a chance to know you off the field when the helmet is off, because, man, what you're doing right now is going to is going to affect their lives for the next 20, 30 years, man. And they will thank you when they get a little older. And, you just don't know how powerful you are.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. Jabari Davis, the Gator Killer, a great representative of the University of Tennessee football, and you'll see that on full display this weekend. Jabari, as always, man, thank you so much for joining us, and I'll talk to you before next year's Florida game, but we'll do it again next week, next year, Tennessee and Florida, right here on this show.
No problem, man. Keep it up, Eric. You do a great job, man. I'll see you around somewhere this weekend.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Appreciate you, Jabari.
All right, man. Have a good one. Take care.
Hey, welcome back into GameQuest of VolQuest.com Game Day Podcast. Jabari Davis. Jabari Davis, Juice, the Gator Killer. Always a pleasure to have him on the show. I think this is like the third or fourth year in a row that in some capacity I've got him on during Florida Week, and I really appreciate his time. Go and support him, support his camp, support his businesses, support a VFL. Some good stuff there, Grant, and this is a game that means so much to so many people, not just Jabari, and it's a game that I think is going to end up being pretty good, right? I mean, Tennessee's a much better football team. Billy Napier's going to get fired. It's not a matter of if, it's when, and that schedule's coming up. I mean, you got Tennessee and Kentucky, the next 2 weeks, and then, of course, that 5-game schedule to end the season that includes the likes of, Ole Miss, LSU, Texas, Georgia, Florida State. They can beat Florida State, in my opinion, but it's going to be tough, but they've got some momentum right now, right? They beat UCF 24-13 last week. They went on the road and took down Mississippi State 45-28. So playing with a little bit of confidence right now, playing with a 2-quarterback system. It's going to be a challenge for a guy in the starter and Graham Mertz. It's very accurate. And, of course, DJ Lagway, 5-star prospect, true freshman. Josh Heupel said it on Monday. He's electric with the football in his hands. It's going to be a challenge. No ifs, ands, buts about it for that Tennessee defense.
Yeah, and I mean, you're familiar with Graham Mertz. You saw what he did a year ago, and what he can do with that accuracy. You better pressure him. You better get home. You better just keep that consistent. Mix it up, different looks, different kinds of pressures, different numbers of guys you're bringing or you have to bring. And with Lagway, he's not just a runner. I mean, there are social media clips out there. You can watch him where he puts the ball in a bucket on the run. That's going to be tough as well. But like you said, Tennessee's a better football team. I think we've seen that. This is the same Florida team that lost 41-17 at home against Miami to open the season. That got down, 33-7 against Texas A&M a couple weeks later with Marcel Reed, a freshman, starting for Texas A&M. I guess that was his first start going on the road and doing that. So they do have some momentum. They've won a couple games in a row over the last 3 weeks. They've had a bye week. They're probably feeling pretty good coming off of UCF, where they were a home underdog by a couple points, and they played as well as they did defensively against that UCF team. But at the same time, Tennessee has shown it can be a really, really good football team on both sides of the ball. It's just a matter of getting back to doing that and kind of reestablishing, I guess, some confidence and playing better football than you saw from the last time out. And maybe that's a wake-up call. Maybe that's a humbling moment for this Tennessee football team to lose at Arkansas the way they did. But we'll see, I guess, how much that humbled them, how much it woke them up based on how they perform Saturday night in front of the home crowd.
I wouldn't call it a dynamic offense for Florida right now. It's not horrible, but we know about Graham Mertz, about DJ Lagway. They're going to play 2 quarterbacks. Nick Delatorre over at Gators Online says it's been first 2 series for Mertz, third series is Lagway, and then it goes 2 series Mertz, a series Lagway. So it's not a true 50-50, but Mertz is still playing a lot. Of course, he went out with a concussion in that Miami game and missed a game or 2, and then has come back, and they both played the last couple of weeks. Mertz again, 77% completion. DJ Lagway, 69% completion, which is pretty nice number right there. It's not bad. Both are throwing it from around 700 yards, a couple of picks, but Montrell Johnson Jr. is the guy that's been there forever. He's back leading the team in rushing. Not a dynamic wide receiver right now. Eugene Wilson III, Trey, he's missed the last couple of weeks. They expect him to play in this game, and he was a big part of the offense last year, if you remember, before he went out. But there's 9 passing touchdowns for Florida so far this year. They've all gone to 8 different pass catchers. So only one player, and that's Elijah Badgers, has reeled in 2 touchdowns. So kind of spreading the wealth there a little bit. Offensive line blocking for 4.6 yards per carry. They've given up 5 sacks. All 5 of those sacks given up came against Miami and Texas A&M. Defensively, though, this is where there's some opportunity. As a group, last year, an SEC low 7 turnovers forced. an SEC low 3 interceptions in the secondary. This year, they've only forced 4 turnovers. Okay, so not off to a great start in that regard. And the run game, the rush defense, man, if I'm Tennessee's offensive line, man, you need a good bounce back. And I think there's some opportunity here because the Florida defense, rush defense, gave up 310 yards on the ground to Texas A&M, 240 yards on the ground to Mississippi State. And then somehow, I mean, I'm not trying to say UCF's a juggernaut rushing offense, but somehow bounced back and looked really good last week, only giving up 108 yards on the ground to the Knights. Regardless, Grant, again, be who you are, run the football. There's some opportunity there for Dylan Sampson, Deshaun Bishop, Cam Selden, whoever, to go and get theirs.
I think it should be a situation on both sides of the ball where Tennessee's defense and Tennessee's offense, they both got a pretty bad taste in their mouth. Because you go back to Arkansas, you look at that drive with 4 minutes left where they couldn't get a first down, where they really needed a first down. You look at the final drive where they get down to the 20 and they can't finish it, and it ends on a play where your quarterback's run out of bounds as time expires. The defense couldn't get a stop when they had to get a stop there in the closing minutes at Arkansas with a backup quarterback on the field for Arkansas. So I think it's a matter of not necessarily who Florida's playing or who Tennessee's facing, but who Tennessee just faced last week and what it looked like as as that game ended and as that game got away from them. They have an opportunity. Yeah, Florida's defense is ranked 13th or worse, I believe, in total defense, scoring defense, pass defense, and run defense in the SEC. So that's something you have to take advantage of. And if they're not going to force takeaways in your offense, better be able to run the football like other teams have, set the tone there, and then also have success in the pass game because the Tennessee pass game is not dead. It might look dead against Arkansas, and you didn't do a ton against Oklahoma either, but it's still going to be there. It's going to grow. It's going to be better moving forward. It's just a matter of, do we see that Saturday night against Florida? I think we will see that because of how motivated they should be and have reason to be coming off that Arkansas performance.
One more note on the offense for Florida. In the 2 losses, they started the season off 1-2, of course, losses to Miami and Texas A&M. They turned the football over a combined 5 times. And the 2 wins since, at Mississippi State and at home against UCF from the Big 12, mind you, only 1 turnover in those 2 games. So they're protecting the football a little bit better in that regard, but they're about to see. I mean, they got a little bit of a taste of it against Texas A&M. I mean, that's, the Elko's defense is pretty solid. But Tennessee's defensive line, we say it every single week, they're about to get a taste of it, and I'm excited to see what that can look like. Grant, how do you see this game going, man? I mean, is this going to be for me, I see this game as a game where Tennessee controls, but they never they never have that, final nail in the coffin, if you will. They allow Florida to hang around just because that's how these games go. But I like Tennessee to win this football game. I like Tennessee to feel good about themselves leaving this football game. I don't have a score yet. I got to think of a score, but that's kind of how I see it. I think you're going to come out and score a couple times early. I think defense is going to create a turnover. I think the crowd is going to play a huge factor. So essentially, Tennessee controls, but Tennessee doesn't dominate. If that makes sense, that's kind of how I see this game going. What say you? What are your impressions entering the game?
I picked Tennessee to win 41-13 at Arkansas. Are you sure you want me to make a prediction? Are you sure you even want me to guess?
I had Tennessee winning, I think 41-20, so I'm right there with you. Yes.
I'm going to go against everything I've ever thought about Tennessee-Florida series and what I've seen with my own eyeballs over the last 30 years, and I think Tennessee wins convincingly. I don't know why I think that. I think it has to happen. Maybe that's the reason I think that, for my own sanity for the rest of this football team and for the rest of this football season covering this team and the angst in the fan base this week and the panic coming off that Arkansas game. I think Tennessee, it needs to look like those first 2 drives of the second half at Arkansas where you forced the run, you ran the ball down Arkansas's throat, you had success with it, you scored a couple touchdowns, the only touchdowns of that game. It's got to look like that early on. It's got to look like that pretty consistently throughout the night against Florida, and lean on that home crowd. Lean on, you have a really good defense. You have to get back to showing that really good defense. You have a really good offense. Yes, we get back to showing that. So I think they win. Are we doing score predictions right now? Because I got one. All right, 34-10. I don't know. It goes against my good nature. It goes against, I have a brain in my head, and I don't know why I'm predicting that score because I've never seen that in my lifetime, but maybe it happens.
If Brent was getting flack on the GQ last week before the Arkansas game for only predicting Tennessee to score 31 points, I'm about to get hammered for my score prediction because you're going 34-10.
I am, but I already established I'm an idiot. Okay, so what else do I have to say? I don't know how to predict this football team.
Let's get this out of the way. I am stupid.
Yes.
I was thinking, like, again, my whole week it's been Tennessee wins, Florida covers. So, like, I've got, like, Tennessee, and again, I reserve the right to change this on the official predictions that come out Friday because you guys know this by now. I say it every single week we record before Friday. I've got Tennessee 34, Tennessee 35, Florida 24.
Oh, boy.
Is that too many points?
No, you said you were going to pick Florida to cover. That's Florida covering.
But I think Arkansas's offense is better than Florida, and Arkansas's offense scored, 19-ish. I mean, they scored 19, but
and they had a lot of big plays too. And Tennessee, I will credit Tennessee's defense. They give up big plays. They do a lot of bending without breaking. Now, obviously, you couldn't get a stop when you had to get a stop in the fourth quarter, and that's a huge deal. And you have to be better than that. But they're not giving up a ton of points, even when they do give up yards.
Give me 35-21, and at the time of this recording, that spreads at 14.5. So that's still Florida covering. So that's my I math that, right? Yeah, I math that.
You math that. The math is mathing.
Yeah, math is mathing. Again, nobody said we'd have to do this in this profession. Give me 35-21 Tennessee. That way Florida's still covering, but Tennessee, it looks like a nicer little lead there. A better little win there. More than anything, I think they get back on track. They play well at home. They get feeling good about themselves. Some of the offensive questions might be answered a little bit because then you got to reset and flip that script again because you got Alabama coming to town. That's going to be a huge football game. Give me some bold predictions. Who's going to go off? What's going to happen? Give me one or two of your bold predictions.
Dylan Sampson, 179 total yards and 3 total touchdowns. I think in a game like this, you got to ride that dude because I think he's the best player on the football team. I think Tennessee's defense forces a couple turnovers. I don't know if that's picks. I don't know if that's strip sacks, just straight up fumbles. But force a couple turnovers at home, ride that momentum, ride Dylan Sampson, and go from there.
I think Tennessee defense, for as well as it played to win that football, I mean, it was far from perfect, but we all can agree it played well enough on several occasions to win that football game on Saturday. Didn't force a turnover, and that's something that you turned to me one time in that fourth quarter, said, it'd be a great time to force a turnover. Be a great time to force a turnover.
You kept waiting for it. Like, if they force a turnover right here, it might be over. It never happened.
Yeah. So I expect Tennessee to force a couple. Give me a James Pierce pressure, Jermon McCoy pick. A James Pierce pressure that results in a Jermon McCoy pick. Because I think McCoy's going to come back, and he had a rough game simply because Taylen Green just threw some dimes his way.
The football gods kind of owe Jermon McCoy a pick because he was in great position, and Taylen Green went God mode and dropped those in a bucket.
Give me McCoy to have a pick, and give me here's something everybody's gonna like. I think Mike Matthews will play some more snaps this week, so give me Mike Matthews to have 5 receptions. That's kind of bold because when you think about it, it's not that bold, but like it's Tennessee so far this year, nobody's had like 10 receptions in a game, right? No one's had Tillman or Hyatt numbers. So give me Mike.
And the guy who gets a lot of targets, Squirrel White, you're trying to figure out what's his status, what's his availability.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. So give me Mike Matthews to have 5 reception and play more of a role in the offense this week. So we'll see what happens, man. It's Tennessee and Florida. It's always going to be a big one. I think Neyland Stadium is going to be awesome. But more importantly, for as bad as last weekend was, and for the dreadful talks and conversations and everything, I agree with you, man. Like, the sky is not falling. This offense looks pretty bad, but it's not over. There's still so much to play for. There's still so much talent there for Nico. I think the tackles and the running backs and the interior can play so much better than they showed the other week. I just think it's going to be a nice reset, bounce back game. Won't be easy, but I think Tennessee's going to get it here at home against Neyland Stadium. And looking at yourself being, if they do that, 5-1, 2-1 in SEC play, going up against Alabama at home, you got to like your chances.
Yeah, you're pushing all your chips to the middle of the table against Alabama if you beat Florida, because that's what that Arkansas loss did. It's a 12-team playoff era. You're not dead yet. We've seen Alabama look untouchable. The way they started against Georgia, building that 28-0 lead, we've seen Alabama look completely human, giving up 40 points to Vanderbilt and losing a game that was a million, billion, trillion% unlosable. You just don't lose that game if you're Alabama. So if you're Tennessee, you've got Alabama left on the schedule. You've got Georgia. You got to take care of business in every other game on the schedule. You got to push all your chips in the middle of the table against Alabama at home. And still, if that doesn't go well, then you're making it a must-win at Georgia if you can take care of business in other games. So all of that starts with beating Florida and getting back to being who this football team can be, who we've seen that they can be.
College football playoffs, still very much in the picture. It's kind of wording phrasing.
Everything's in front of you. It's just a little further out in front of you than it was before.
But the main focus today is Florida. Get that win and move on. So we're going to have tons of coverage throughout the day, during the game, after the game. You guys know it, your number one spot for anything Tennessee football, or really Tennessee athletics overall. That is over at Volquest.com in the general's quarters. I do want to thank our friends over at Premier Garage of Knoxville. GameQuest is presented by those sponsors, those kind people. Premier Garage of Knoxville, East Tennessee's #1 provider in custom garage flooring, cabinetry, and storage solutions. You can be the best Tennessee fan this football season that you can be by ordering the Smokey Grey hybrid polymer floor today. That's at premiergarageknoxville.com/falls. One more time, premiergarageknoxville.com/falls. Go there and sign up for a free estimate. For Grant Ramey, Jabari Davis, I'm Eric Cain. Thank you so much for joining us here on GameQuest. It is a Volquest.com Game Day Podcast.